Hey, welcome to Two Old Geeks Talking. I'm Rob.
I'm Trace.
And today we're going into part 2 of 80s cartoons.
Yay!
Yeah, ain't that pretty awesome? So let's just go ahead and get the ball rolling. Our first cartoon we'll be talking about is the Smurfs.
Tell me about Smurfs, brother.
Alrighty. In 1981, they introduced this. Well, let me rephrase that. The cartoon started in 1981 and ran to 1989. It was produced by Hanna-Barbera. Now, here's another. I'm always full of fun facts. It was based on a comic strip in Belgium.
I did not know that.
Yeah. The cartoonist was Peyco, P-E-Y-C-O. And he started that comic strip in 1958.
Wow.
Right?
And it had become a cartoon to the 80s.
Well, in 1976, Stuart Ross was on vacation. And he saw those comic strips and some of the things, and he thought, I like that, and he bought the rights for it. He brought it back to the Northern America. It was originally called Les Stromos.
I like Smurfs better.
Right. Well, when he said that word, it was the Pecos, the artist and writer, actually mispronouncing Hammy the Salt Shaker. Yeah, well. So,
I can remember they had all these figures, and they were super popular.
Right.
They had a Smurf playing tennis, Smurf playing football, and Smurf playing golf.
The Smurfs.
I had a Smurf.
Did you?
I had one Smurf. It was a Smurf and a karate gi.
Right.
Did you have a Smurf?
I had a Papa Smurf, and I got him because he was different than all the other Smurfs. And the Smurf toys and dolls and everything was made way before the cartoons were.
Yeah.
So
it was a good innocent show.
Right.
It does seem like they were cursing when they said Smurf. It's like, Smurf you and your Smurf and Smurf.
Right. Oh, if you read some of the comic strips, it was just like that. No, one of them yelled "son of a Smurf."
Kids from the 80s should just, instead of cursing, should just say Smurf. Like, Smurf you, buddy, when you're in traffic. And that way people know,
Right.
Where we're from. Go ahead.
So the president of NBC was on a skiing trip, and his daughter asked him, "Daddy, can you buy me this stuffed Smurf?" And this was the exact kind of Smurf that she asked for. Now, this is on loan to me.
Oh, yeah, who's it belong to?
This belongs to my wife.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
She lets you touch it?
Yeah, because she keeps it wrapped up and keeps it in the top of the closet.
Really love
But this is one of the original Smurf dolls that was ever made.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought you all might get a kick out of seeing something like that.
I would touch it, but since she's...
Not go ahead, touch it.
No, I don't know. She just...
Okay, right there.
That's got a hole in the neck.
Yeah.
Somebody did a tracheotomy.
So, he liked the idea. He brought it home and said, so the cartoon was born from that.
Cool.
Right? So, the cartoon, like I said, ran till 89, but it lost popularity when they decided to start pulling the Smurfs out of the village, and they started taking them through time travel and everything.
Yeah, I remember the villain was Gargamel.
Right.
And then what was the cat's name?
Azrael. Now, do you know why he wanted the Smurfs so bad?
Why he wanted the Smurf? He
Right.
wanted to eat them, right?
No, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Once I looked into it, I found out that he wanted them because he needed them to perfect his gold making spell.
Oh.
Yeah. So instead of eating them, he was just going to grind them up and make them into gold or
just as
something.
bad.
Now, in the comic strips, they lived in a place called the Cursed Lands, which is really crazy because on the 80s cartoons, we all remember the Smurf village being happy-go-lucky and mushrooms and stuff. But in the comic strips, there was marshland swamps on one side of them, deserts on the other, and behind them was a freaking cavernous mountain range. It was really a dangerous place to live.
It kind of reminded me of gnomes. And you're big into gnomes.
Oh, yeah.
So
love my gnomes.
Kind of seemed like gnomes.
Right. At one time, this is when the 80s cartoons came out, they were accused of being a communist society because their food and their clothes was actually provided for them. And of course, that was just
who provided it?
what they
all chipped them
right.
together.
So they,
how dare they?
and the thing about the Smurfs is each person had their own role and they had their own thing that they did.
Grumpy Smurf.
I don't know what he did.
He hated everything. Right now it's real popular to hate things. Grumpy Smurf hated things.
But when you watch Grumpy Smurf, you'll actually find that there's times that he actually wasn't so grumpy.
What was the stupid one? Dopey Smurf?
Yeah, there was a Dopey Smurf.
Was it Dopey?
There was a Lazy Smurf.
Lazy Smurf.
He was probably considered dopey.
Yeah. But there was a stupid one too. But what they call him? What Dopey? That's one of the dwarfs. Oh wow.
Anyway, so at the beginning of the animated series in the 80s, there was only 100 Smurfs. Eventually, they ended up with 101 with the creation of Smurfette. Now, I mentioned Smurfette because she is actually a creation of Gargamel. He made her to be a spy to find out.
All those male Smurfs and one Smurfette.
Right?
You know who Smurfette always reminded me of is our cousin Jody.
Really?
I don't know why. Maybe because there was all boys and she was only female.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
maybe that was right. Not because she was short and blue.
Papa Smurf ended up turning her into an actual Smurf. And what I find interesting is there was only one other female Smurf ever introduced in the Smurf cartoon, and she was created by magic as well. I don't know why all the females had to be created with just magic.
So all females are kind of magic, right?
Right. All right, so that's what I got on Smurfs. You missed it. The next episode.
Next cartoon.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh man, I love that cartoon.
Right? That was a...
Oh man, it was so great.
Right? Okay, so Dungeons and Dragons ran from 1983 to 1985. And it was based on TSR's Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game, right?
We played that hard.
Oh, hard. Yeah. Hard.
We need to do a separate video on Dungeons and
Dragons.
We
will. You know we will. So, it was a Marvel production in association with TSR and, again, Toei Animation, the animation company in Japan. The basics or the premise of this cartoon was 6 friends got on a carnival ride and was transformed or transported into the realm of Dungeons and Dragons. When you get in there, they come across the Dungeon Master, who gave each one of the children, which age ran from 8 to 15. I mean, really young kids, really.
Yeah, the barbarian kid was real young.
Right. So, let's see.
They had that little unicorn.
Uni?
Yeah. And then the bad guy was called.
We'll get there. We'll get there because there's a whole story about him.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, so we have Hank the Ranger.
Yeah.
Presto the Magician. Sheila the Thief.
Yeah.
Bobby the Barbarian. Diana the Acrobat, and Eric the Cavalier.
Yeah.
Now their main antagonist was. Can you remember his name?
Man, you're pushing me. No.
Okay, so his
Venger. Oh, that's so pretty close.
There you go. So it was Venger. Now they've had other characters or other creatures that they fought, like Tiamat, the five-headed dragon and stuff. But Venger was the main antagonist. Now their whole goal was to try to get away home, back to where they come from. And so
they have all those episodes on YouTube right now.
Now here's the crazy thing. Like a lot of other shows, when it got canceled, they just cut it.
Yeah.
And there was one episode left to be aired. And it never was aired or never even animated, but it was written. And if you go to YouTube to this day, it's called Requiem. If you look it up, they actually got some of the voice actors to reenact it. And it's actually kind of shown like comic book pages.
Yeah.
And it is awesome. And it kind of brings everything to an end. And spoilers, hold your ears if you don't want to hear this, because it blew my mind to find out that Venger was actually the Dungeon Master's corrupt son.
Oh, really?
Right?
Yeah, I love that show. I thought it was awesome.
Bum, bum, bum. Alrighty, next we have the Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles. Teenage. All right.
Well, let me tell you about. I remember I remember when the comic first come out.
Okay.
And
that's good.
And I mean, I remember just seeing this title that said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
It was kind of a parody. It was a joke. I mean, just the name itself for that comic. It was a black and white comic.
Mm-hmm.
In the first issue, they introduced a character called Shredder, and Shredder died in the first issue of the comic. But he was like the main protagonist throughout the animated series.
Right.
But in the comic, he died in issue 1. And the comic was very kind of, I know they're turtles, but in the comic it was very kind of adult oriented,
right?
But in the cartoon, obviously that wasn't the case.
And the comic book was actually written to make fun of popular comic books in the era, like Daredevil.
Yeah.
It was actually
because I mean the ninjas were called Foot Ninjas.
Yes.
And the ninjas in Daredevil called Hand. Hand.
Yeah.
And then there was this radioactive material that turned the turtles into people, and then there was radioactive material that turned Daredevil into have his senses and stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of tied together.
Another thing interesting, we're getting back to the 80s cartoons. Hold on. That when they colorized the comic book, they had made all the Ninja Turtles masks red. So it wasn't until the 80s cartoon that they actually changed up the colors so that you could kind of differentiate between the turtles. Okay, so getting back to the cartoon, which ran from 87 to 96. The comic book was created by Mirage Studios back in 1984. Playmate was given the rights to make it, and they said, well, we're not going to make the toy figures unless there's a cartoon to go along with it.
That's right.
And they were like, yeah, right? Why not? I mean, that's kind of the norm for the 80s. So they said, all right, we'll do that. So that's what they did. Now, the characters' main names were Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and they were all named after Italian, French, or Italian Renaissance artists.
Yeah.
And that was a book that Splinter, their master Splinter, and we'll get into his name here in a little bit, had found in the gutter, and that's how he gave them their name. Yeah. Now, let's see.
Yeah, I'm rewatching those now with my grandson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he enjoys them.
Yeah. Now we're talking about the first generation of Ninja Turtles. There's been so many adaptations of them. So Splinter was the pet rat of a Hamato Yoshi, and he was, like you said, he was part of the hand ninja group. The Foot Ninja group. I'm sorry, you confused me with the. Yeah. So the Foot, and so he had watched his master, practiced after him. Now I know this is weird. This rat actually practiced the moves and stuff, but Hamido had a rival. Now this is according to the cartoon. He had a rival, and he had fled to America because he had killed his rival, took the girl. It was either kill yourself or run away. So he ran away, come to America. There was an accident. Splinter saw that the turtles got hit by the ooze, went down in a drain pipe. He went and cleaned them up. Of course, he got it on him. Woke up the next morning, the turtles were 3 times the size. And so he trained them to be ninjas. His rival.
Back in the 80s, ninjas were popular.
Right.
I mean, you had ninja, all types of ninja movies. G.I. Joe had ninjas in it.
Oh yeah, you had to have ninjas and dinosaurs.
It didn't matter what you had.
That's right. They didn't have ninja dinosaurs. That would have been too cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Ninja dinosaurs. Maybe we thought so.
So anyway, in the cartoon, Shredder was the son of that rival. So then he went up through the ranks and became the leader of the Foot and come to America hunting them down. Now, one of the things that I thought was pretty cool was how they incorporated Usagi Yojimbo into the cartoons and stuff like that.
Right. It really boiled down to Peter Laird, one of the creators of Ninja Turtles. It was real independent, not part of the big three: Image, DC, and Marvel.
Right.
You know, so it was off to the side. So Usagi Yojimbo was too, and I'm a huge Usagi Yojimbo fan, and we'll definitely do a video of that, even though no one cares about it other than me. We'll still do the video. But it was neat that friendship of those two creators made them mesh in those characters together. Yeah.
Now in the cartoon, I don't know how they done it in the comic books, but in the cartoons, they actually had like opened up a time portal.
Yeah, that's the way they do
it
in the comics. Yeah.
All right, so that's what we got for the Ninja Turtles. Next we have, and this was requested by Jay on Instagram for us to talk about.
We're doing it, Jay.
We're doing it, Jay! Is Voltron. Now, I'm no anime expert.
Me neither.
So I had to do some research on Voltron. Here was my...
I like Ghost in the Shell, and that's kind of about as far as I go with that.
Well, I mean, here was my introduction to Voltron. I remember our little brother had a giant plastic Voltron that stood about this tall. And then years later, my daughter had a giant plastic Voltron that stood about this tall.
Well, we watched it. I mean, I remember it. I mean, wasn't that like the different characters now joined together?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was not just one. Okay, so it was based off a Japanese anime, but it was actually made from 3 different animes that they cut and spliced together. It was crazy. So they had originally asked, they had called Japan and said, hey, we want all the footage that has this lion thing in it. Well, they didn't get what they thought they were going to get. They actually got a cartoon called Beast King Go Lion.
Oh,
right. and that aired in 81 and 82 back in Japan, done by Toei Animation. I always hear about this Toei Animation. And so they made it into a cartoon about the 5 paladins that controlled these mecha lions that formed Voltron. Now in Japan, this is considered a subpar cartoon. You know, when they watch our Voltron, they were like, no. This is some kind of subpar thing of any of the Gundams. Any of our lowest Gundams is better than Voltron, which is kind of weird because Voltron has such a large following here in the U.S. It kind of just blew my mind. So World Event Productions here in the United States decided they were going to end up doing a live action version of it. And Toei Animation in Japan said, no, we're taking you to court. And they won. They sued them and kept them from making the live action.
Well, even though we're not huge anime fans, you know, there was some anime like G-Force, I think, and then, you know, you had Voltron.
Well, it's called Battle of the Planets, I think.
Battle of the Planets is the actual name. But I mean, the thing is that as a kid, you watched what was available.
Right.
I mean, we would watch Captain Caveman, or, you know, which we were living
we watched
or Hong Kong Fu, or stuff like that.
Well, we watched Robotech. That was about the same.
Robotech. Right. Yeah. So I mean, but I like Voltron. I like the idea of them all joining together to make one big giant robot, one big mech. So that was cool. That was cool.
So let's see. In the second season, which I found interesting, they actually got the footage that they wanted for the first season, and that was largely based off an anime called Armored Fleet Del Ruger 15, which aired in Japan.
Flows right off the top.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And that
Armored Fleet Del 15. I almost named my daughter that.
Yeah. The third. So that aired back in Japan in 83 or 82 to 83. They did not want to pay for people to translate the cartoon, so they actually paid a company to come in and redo the dialogue, redo the soundtrack, sound effects, and everything else, so that they could do the second season. Yep, it was interesting. So, what's really cool was at one time there was 3 Voltrons in that season. Let's see, in the second season, the first Voltron was way out in space, so they couldn't be anywhere close enough to defend us against the Drools, was their antagonist. So what do? let's just build another Voltron.
Yeah.
Nah, let's go ahead and build two. Why stop at one? Let's build two.
Yeah.
So they had an aquatic Voltron, land-based air Voltron, and an air and space Voltron. So at one time they had 15 Paladins.
Yeah, they had all their bases covered.
Right? Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
it's got taxpayers.
Sure,
right? All right. There was a reboot. Of course, yeah, I don't know if you keep up with it, but in 2016, Netflix did a reboot, and it went through the roof. Oh, heck yeah. That's where my daughter ended up getting her big plastic ball droppers from that. Yeah. Now, there was some differences from the 80s version to this version. In the 80s, Keith is no longer the leader. There was the leader of the Paladins. Pitch is now a girl instead of a guy.
Of course.
Right? Princess Allura no longer commands one of the lines. She's just on her own there. And Shiro is now Japanese, because in the original cartoons he was thin and he was Norwegian.
Yeah.
So they just changed
They just
changed him up altogether.
Yeah.
But it had.
Well, it was popular for a new generation.
Right.
It's something that we enjoyed as children. Your daughter was able to enjoy. So.
But the thing with the new one versus the old one is the old one, they were just making crap up the best they could.
Yeah.
The new one, they kind of filled in the blanks and helped the next generation fall in love with something that was popular in the 80s.
That's good. That's good.
All righty. And last but not least.
Oh man.
Is My Little Pony.
My Little Pony, man. I never watched My Little Pony.
Well, I never was super into the original.
Go on and admit it. You like that. You're brony.
Okay, Friendship is Magic is okay, but the original 80s, which started in 86, was some like a whole different entity. This is what we call the.
If that's what you're into, that's cool. I'm cool with that.
No.
Cool. I mean, if you like little different colored horses, I'm happy for you.
That's the thing. It's what's popular in the 80s.
Yeah.
You'll find out. Wait a second. So it was made by Hasbro back in 81.
Little girls liked it.
Right. It was.
I'm not a little girl.
Well, you know what? just listen, okay?
I'm listening.
So it was colorful ponies, colorful little horses, and back then they said that they had special symbols on their flanks, which is now known as cutie marks. That's a little bit of information you might not know.
I felt smarter.
Yeah, right. So here's something that really blew my mind. In the 80s, 150 million ponies was sold. Ain't that hard to believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy to think. So
if I was a good father, I would probably got one for my daughter.
Right, why not? So the premise of the cartoon was there was Danny, Megan, Molly, Williams.
You're not talking about real ponies. You're talking about the toy ponies.
Right. No.
Okay, all right.
No. I'm talking about 150 million plastic ponies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My daughter might have had one of them.
Oh, I'm sure. Every little girl, everybody had one.
Yeah, it come with like a little brush. You can brush its mane. Yeah, I think she had one,
So, the premise of the cartoon, Danny, Megan, and Molly Williams flew over the rainbow into Ponyland, into Ponyland, where there is Paradise Estates. Paradise Estates is actually found in Dream Valley.
Of course it is.
Of course it is, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and knowing is half the battle.
Okay.
So, the one thing, and there's been so many different adaptations of the ponies throughout the years.
And it's still popular?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you hear me mention about My Little Ponies, the new ones? I was talking
they got new ones?
Friendship is Magic. Is what
that's
it's
the
called.
newest one?
Yeah, the first one was just called My Little Ponies and Friends. The new one is My Little Ponies Friendship is Magic. So anyway, the one common thread that nobody realizes is that Spike the Dragon has been there since the beginning. Spike the Dragon is kind of like that comedic sidekick that you always find in all the other ones.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the new cartoons that other dragons was introduced. He was the only dragon in Ponyland, which is, I never could understand that. But
sometimes I feel like I'm the only dragon in Ponyland.
You are. You're the roughest, toughest damn dragon there is. So here's something else I found really interesting. So the first episode, which is called Rescue from Midnight Castle, is creepy as all get out.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of scary, especially because it was geared towards girls. You had this minotaur-like animal that was just scary as all get out looking, and he was kidnapping the ponies and forcing them to pull his chariot, which is called, let's see, the Chariot of Midnight. And he had this crony, which was like half gorilla, half alligator with bat wings. I mean, really scary stuff for something that was supposed to be geared towards little girls.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. So then in '84, they came out with My Little Pony and Friends movie. And it had some really interesting voice actors. You had Sandy Duncan, Tony Randall, Danny DeVito, Marilyn Kahn, Rhea Perlman, Cloris Leachman, and, of course, Peter Collins.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
He did a pony's voice?
Peter Collins was in everything back then.
Did he sound like Optimus Prime?
No.
Okay.
No, he was
no. The red pony.
Yeah.
Are all the ponies female?
Transformed
Some
to
of the
horses.
Some of the ponies male?
Huh?
Are they male and female ponies?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, there's even
But like there's like a whole group of men that still like My Little Pony, and they're called bronies.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And there's actually a convention every year of My Little Pony bronies.
I mean, man, whatever you're into.
Right.
So
that is what we have for the 80s cartoons. If there's an 80s cartoon that I missed, and I'm sure there is.
Oh, sure.
And if you have any questions or comments, put them down in the comments below. Remember to hit that subscribe button. Look us up on Instagram and Facebook. And I think that's it. I'm done.
I'm done. You done?
I'm done.
Okay, I think we're done.
All righty.
All right.
Bye-bye.